Amid meticulously choreographed performances, there are moments when Beyoncé's expression seems to fade, as if a distinct presence takes over. These subtle yet noticeable shifts have become the subject of speculation among fans and attentive observers, who question whether something beyond artistic performance is at play. The theory of the double gaze suggests that during these episodes, the artist experiences a temporary dissociation, allowing another entity to manifest through her. But what really happens when Beyoncé enters this enigmatic state? Is she truly channeling a force beyond common understanding? Welcome to another night where mysteries never sleep. I'm Midnight, and this is 7 Nights. Before we begin, I'd like to ask for your help. Like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. It's just one click, but it makes a huge difference in helping YouTube deliver these videos to more people and allowing me to keep bringing this content to you. I'm counting on you. Let's get into the video. There are moments when the body is there, but the presence seems to have departed. Anyone who watches Beyoncé's shows may have noticed something curious, brief, almost imperceptible instance when her expression suddenly changes. It's not fatigue nor a choreography mistake. It's as if she pauses from the inside. One such moment drew attention at Glastonbury in 2011. In the middle of an intense performance, she stops for a few seconds. Her face freezes, her eyes don't react to what's around her. Something about that image doesn't match the artist's usual fluidity. It wasn't an isolated case. In 2013, during the Super Bowl, while dancing with pinpoint precision, her facial expression underwent an almost mechanical transition. From a vibrant presence, she shifted to something neutral, almost cold. This emptiness in her gaze has been recorded during different tours, by different cameras. It doesn't matter the outfit, the setting, or the song. At some point, her eyes stop following her soul, and the body keeps going. How can this be explained? I'm not talking about superstition or mass hysteria. I'm talking about videos, dates, public records. A pattern that repeats. And it's not enough to just watch, you have to observe. In these pauses, time seems to slow down around her. The body continues to move, but an absence settles on her face. The question that begins to take shape is inevitable. Why does this always happen at very specific moments? There's a theory called the double gaze. It's based on the idea that it's possible to temporarily disconnect from the main consciousness and make room for another to take control. We're not necessarily talking about possession in the religious sense, but about a kind of substitution ritual. Some shamans use this process to channel entities. Ancient Egyptian priestesses also entered altered states, described as soul journeys. What might Beyoncé be accessing in those moments? And before anyone says this is just a result of physical effort or concentration, it's worth noting when these episodes occur. They don't happen at random. They arise before major choreographic explosions, during music transitions, or in those few seconds of complete darkness between tracks. The environment seems prepared. There's silence, low lighting, and then the gaze fades. Could it be a coincidence? The most striking part is that this visual disconnection never comes alone. Right after, she returns to the stage with more force, more intensity. It's as if something has been updated or replaced, and the audience responds. The cheers get louder, the energy intensifies. There's an invisible communication happening there. The crowd reacts, even without understanding exactly what changed. And here comes another disturbing detail. Those who analyze these videos in slow motion notice there's no typical ocular reaction. The pupils don't contract with the spotlights. The eyes don't seek reference in the surroundings. It's a gaze that isn't searching for anything. It's still as if watching from inside or outside the body. A kind of silent observer. This absence in her gaze contrasts sharply with her physical engagement. While the body dances vigorously, the face doesn't follow the emotion. This creates a disconnect, a misalignment that suggests something is in control, but it's not the person we're used to seeing. In that moment, Beyoncé isn't leading us, she's being led. There are other artists who have reported similar experiences, but never with this level of repetition and intensity. Nina Simone spoke of entering a trance. James Brown said he didn't remember some of his performances. Beyoncé has never denied having such experiences. On the contrary, as we'll see later on, she herself has spoken about becoming someone else. And maybe it all starts here, when the gaze disappears. If these moments were random, they wouldn't leave the same impression. But they carry a weight the audience feels. A silence that can't be explained. a subtle unease that lingers. Because when the gaze of an artist of this magnitude goes dark, what remains is a question. Who is looking back when Beyoncé seems not to be? Have you ever wondered why some artists seem to completely transform on stage? In Beyoncé's case, that transformation has a name: Sasha Fierce. Introduced to the world in 2008 with the album I Am. Sasha Fierce, this persona was described by the singer herself as her bolder, more sensual, and aggressive side, a facet that emerged exclusively during live performances. In interviews, Beyoncé revealed that Sasha Fierce was born during the filming of the Crazy in Love music video in 2003. She explained that she created this alter ego to separate her personal life from her artistic one, allowing herself to explore aspects of her personality that, according to her, did not manifest off stage. Sasha Fierce is fun, more sensual, more aggressive, and the more outspoken and glamorous side that comes out when I'm working and when I'm on stage, she said in an interview with MTV. But what does it really mean to create such a distinct persona? In some cultures, the creation of an alter ego is seen as a way to channel specific energies or entities. In the artistic context, it can be a tool to access deep emotions or behaviors that would otherwise remain repressed. In Beyoncé's case, Sasha Fierce seems to have been more than just a marketing strategy. She became an almost independent presence, with her own characteristics and a distinct energy. During the Sasha Fierce era, Beyoncé's performances reached a remarkable level of intensity. More aggressive choreography, intense facial expressions, and an almost supernatural stage presence marked this period. In interviews, she mentioned feeling possessed by Sasha during shows, describing out-of-body experiences where she felt no pain or fatigue, even during exhausting performances. This description raises intriguing questions. Was Beyoncé accessing altered states of consciousness during her performances? The idea that artists enter a trance on stage is not new. Many musicians and dancers report experiences where they feel something greater guiding them during intense performances. In Beyoncé's case, the consistency and intensity of these experiences suggest a deliberate and deeply rooted practice. Additionally, the aesthetic adopted during the Sasha Fierce era incorporated powerful symbolic elements. Costumes inspired by deities, poses reminiscent of ancient rituals, and an aura of almost mystical power permeated her performances. These elements, combined with the alter ego narrative, created an environment where the audience wasn't merely watching a show, they were participating in something almost ritualistic. In 2010, Beyoncé announced that she had killed Sasha Fierce, stating that she no longer needed the persona to access her bolder side. However, in 2012, she brought Sasha back for a series of shows, indicating that this energy was still necessary in certain contexts. This reintroduction raises the question: is Sasha Fierce an inseparable part of Beyoncé, or an entity she summons when needed? The creation and use of alter egos in the artistic world are common, but few have reached the level of autonomy Sasha Fierce seems to have had. The line between the artist and her creation became blurred, leading many to question where Beyoncé ends and Sasha begins. This fusion of identities can be seen as a natural evolution of the artist, or as an indication of something deeper and possibly spiritual. Observing the trajectory of Sasha Fierce, it's impossible to ignore the transformation Beyoncé underwent during that period. The intensity of the performances, the emotional depth of the music, and the almost hypnotic connection with the audience suggest that this alter ego was more than just an artistic tool. She became a channel through which Beyoncé explored and expressed deep aspects of her psyche, and possibly something beyond. With that in mind, the question that remains is, was Sasha Fierce merely an artistic creation, or an entity that came to life through Beyoncé's energy and dedication? And if it's the latter, what implications does that have for our understanding of identity, performance, and spirituality in the modern world? Imagine tens of thousands of people, in absolute silence for a few seconds, staring fixedly at a single figure on stage. The sound explodes, light floods the space, and the central figure raises their arms as if conducting a rite. In large-scale shows, Beyoncé doesn't just sing, she commands. And there's something about the way it happens that goes beyond technique. At certain moments, it's almost as if the show becomes a massive collective ritual. This idea might seem exaggerated at first glance, but it's worth observing closely. The show is meticulously designed: lights, sound, choreography, symbols. Everything appears to work in sync to generate a specific energy. But the centerpiece, the catalyst, is always Beyoncé. When she enters the scene, something changes in the environment. The audience responds not just with applause, but with intense emotional surrender, almost as if offering their attention, and something more. In the tradition of ancient rituals, whether in Egyptian civilizations or African ceremonies, the central figure guided collective attention as a way of channeling energy. It was through the gaze of the people, the chants, the cries, that the gods were fed. This same dynamic can be perceived in modern shows, especially Beyoncé's. When thousands of people focus their emotions on a single presence, a powerful energetic field is created. And what if that energy is being redirected? During the Formation World Tour, for example, there were choreographed moments when the stage went completely dark, followed by a theatrical re-entry with mystical lighting and an almost liturgical soundtrack. Beyoncé would often appear in poses reminiscent of religious rituals, arms outstretched, head tilted back, eyes turned to the sky. These moments were accompanied by deep sounds and lights flashing in hypnotic patterns. Coincidence or intentional evocation? This isn't about claiming that the audience is being deceived or manipulated. Rather, it's about raising the hypothesis that there is symbolic knowledge behind these choices. Beyoncé is a highly controlled artist, involved in every detail of what she presents. If certain elements repeat with ritualistic precision, it's plausible to assume they are not there by accident. They serve a purpose, and perhaps an energetic function. There is also the question of repetition. Across different tours, she repeats certain gestures, words, and visual structures. This mirrors ritualistic practices in which repetition is used to anchor energy or open a kind of symbolic channel. In some occult traditions, repetition is essential to create a thought form, a symbolic entity that feeds on collective attention to gain strength. The audience, in turn, participates with devotion. They scream, sing along, cry. It's an emotional surrender that goes beyond mere entertainment. In some fan-recorded video clips, people can be seen in a trance, eyes closed, hands raised, as if they were in a religious ceremony. This raises a delicate question. What is being fed with this energy? And who or what benefits from it? During the show, there are calculated pauses when Beyoncé silently observes the audience. Her gaze moves slowly across the crowd, as if absorbing something. In these pauses, the atmosphere shifts. Many describe these moments as hypnotic, where time seems to slow down. Could this be the moment of energetic harvest? A symbolic way of absorbing the emotional devotion being offered? Of course, all of this can be viewed as a symbolic, even metaphorical, interpretation. But if we look at the history of rituals in ancient cultures, the structure is surprisingly similar. A priest or priestess, a crowd, a sequence of gestures, sounds, and symbols, and at the end, a release of energy. The difference, perhaps, is that today we use spotlights and auto-tune, but the mechanism remains. The idea that these shows might function as modern rituals doesn't necessarily imply something negative, but it does challenge the way we understand entertainment. Could it be that, without realizing it, we're participating in ceremonies carefully choreographed for much more than entertainment? Isn't it curious how ancient symbols continue to appear in modern contexts, especially in major performances? In Beyoncé's shows, elements of Egyptian iconography are frequently incorporated, creating an atmosphere that evokes ancestral rituals. But what is the purpose behind this aesthetic choice? During the World Tour, Beyoncé used costumes and stage designs that evoked images of ancient Egypt. In one of the performances, she appears wearing a crown similar to that of Nefertiti, while dancers form patterns reminiscent of hieroglyphs. The presence of the Eye of Horus, a symbol of protection and power, is also notable in some presentations. These elements are not present merely for aesthetic reasons. Ancient Egypt is known for its rich tradition of rituals and spiritual symbolism. By incorporating these symbols, Beyoncé may be establishing a connection between her performance and ancient spiritual practices, creating an experience that transcends ordinary entertainment. Furthermore, the choice of specific poses and gestures during performances also recalls ritualistic practices. On various occasions, Beyoncé is seen with her arms outstretched or forming angles that resemble the postures of Egyptian deities. These poses are not random. They carry symbolic meanings that may be used to evoke certain energies or states of consciousness. The song "Run the World, Girls" for example, features choreography that incorporates movements inspired by traditional African and Egyptian dances. The fusion of these styles creates a visual narrative that celebrates female power, while simultaneously invoking the strength of historical figures like Isis and Hathor. It is interesting to note that Beyoncé herself has mentioned in interviews that she feels transformed on stage, as if another version of herself emerges during performances. This sensation of transformation may be linked to the incorporation of ritualistic elements in her shows, allowing her to access different aspects of her artistic identity. The use of Egyptian symbolism can also be seen as a form of empowerment. By associating herself with powerful and divine historical figures, Beyoncé reinforces her image as a dominant and influential artist in the contemporary music scene. However, this aesthetic choice also raises questions about cultural appropriation and the meaning of these symbols in modern contexts. It is important to consider how the reuse of ancient iconography in current performances can impact the perception and understanding of those cultures. Despite these considerations, there is no doubt that the presence of Egyptian symbols in Beyoncé's performances adds a layer of depth and complexity to her shows. They invite the audience to explore connections between past and present, between the sacred and the profane. What is the true purpose behind the incorporation of these elements? Is Beyoncé merely paying homage to ancient cultures, or is there a deeper intention to channel energies and meanings through her art? In various interviews over the years, Beyoncé has let slip something that, to attentive eyes, carries profound implications. She states that when she steps onto the stage, she transforms, not as a poetic metaphor, but as a real state. "When I'm on stage, I feel possessed," she declared in 2006. "It's a different experience. It's not me. I leave my body and become something I can't explain." This statement might sound exaggerated to many, but within the context we've explored so far, it fits. The artist's transformation on stage is visible and acknowledged. Beyoncé isn't simply playing a role like an actress in a film. She becomes someone else. This other presence has a name, its own behavior, and in a way, seems to demand space. More than a psychological defense mechanism, the creation of this persona is described by her as a way to channel something she can't access in her everyday life. In an interview with People magazine, she reinforced this idea. "Sasha Fierce is someone who appears when I need to be brave. She helps me do things that I, Beyoncé, wouldn't do." The language is clear. There is an internal division, and this division manifests through an almost ritualistic process. When it comes to performing, she doesn't just pretend to be brave, she invokes bravery, and with it, a new consciousness. This dynamic is very similar to the concept of identity fragmentation found in spiritual and occult contexts. In some esoteric schools of thought, there are practices aimed at developing internal archetypes, autonomous forms of consciousness created to perform specific functions. Sasha Fierce, in this case, would function as a ritualized extension of Beyoncé's artistic self, something activated by very specific triggers: the stage, the audience, the performance. What's most intriguing is that, over time, Beyoncé claimed to have killed Sasha Fierce. But how does one kill something that isn't real? This declaration appears as an attempt to reintegrate what was once separated, a kind of symbolic banishment of an entity that had fulfilled its purpose. Still, traces of Sasha return, in music videos, tours, facial expressions, as if something never truly left. And if it never left, was it really just a mental creation? When Beyoncé describes the moment she's on stage as something she can't control, we are led to ask, what exactly is she accessing in that space? An inner strength, an artistic instinct, or an energetic entity she has learned to channel? None of this is stated outright, but the subtext is filled with clues. Another important point is that she's not the only artist to report this kind of experience. But the level of control, ritualization, and repetition with which Beyoncé handles these transformations is unique. Everything about her is meticulously planned, so why would this aspect be spontaneous? Her very choice of words, possession, transformation, leaving the body, are terms that carry spiritual weight in many traditions. Moreover, the moments when this transformation occurs coincide with visual and sonic changes during her shows. It's as if there's energetic preparation for something to enter. And once again, we return to the ritual structure: darkened environment, silence followed by deep sound, triumphant entrance. It's not just about singing, it's about invoking a presence. This doesn't necessarily mean that Beyoncé is involved with occult practices, but there's a closeness between what she describes and what many spiritual traditions define as incorporation rituals. And even if unintentional, the effect on the audience and on herself is the same. An entrance, a fusion, a complete surrender. If Beyoncé becomes something she herself doesn't fully recognize, then who, in fact, is the presence that appears on stage? So far, we've seen how small details in Beyoncé's performance, especially in her eyes, spark discussions that go far beyond art. The phenomenon of the double gaze, as some call it, may be the most enigmatic clue of all. It's not a simple blackout. It's a calculated absence, one that coincides with pivotal moments in the show. But ultimately, what is this gaze? In esoteric tradition, there are ancient records of practices involving the momentary separation of consciousness. In ancient Egypt, priests and priestesses trained to access states in which the Ba, soul, would temporarily detach from the Ka, vital force, allowing higher forces to interact with the body. The eyes were the first sign of this transition. They would lose focus, fixate on something others couldn't see. And when they returned, they were no longer quite the same. Applying this lens to what we observe in Beyoncé, we see a repetitive pattern where the body continues to move and the gaze stops. It doesn't respond, doesn't search, doesn't feel. The absence in the gaze is the detail that breaks the illusion of the spectacle. She is there, but for a few seconds, she doesn't seem to be. And this break in presence raises deeper questions. Could this be a developed technique? A kind of key that allows the activation of another layer of consciousness? In initiatory rituals from various occult traditions, the disciple undergoes training involving the control of their own presence, learning to make internal space for other forces, symbolic or energetic, to act. If this truly exists, and there are enough accounts suggesting that it does, could Beyoncé, at some point, have learned to master this technique? The concept of the elevated appears in documents linked to discrete esoteric orders. They are those who, according to certain beliefs, have learned to manipulate energetic fields through intention, performance, and public devotion. It's not about fame, it's about magnetism. And in this context, the stage stops being mere entertainment. It becomes a convergence point of energy, where the artist acts as a conductor for forces operating on a symbolic plane. What's most curious is that this ability to suspend the gaze is not exclusive to Beyoncé. There are records of similar moments with other artists, especially during events charged with intense emotion. But what sets Beyoncé apart is the precision and frequency with which this occurs. Always at the exact moment, the show's structure suggests an energetic transition. To some researchers of esoteric pop culture, the double gaze would be a tool of connection, a spiritual technology, a bridge between what's on stage and what cannot be seen. There is no confirmation of this, of course, but the symbolic and behavioral evidence strengthens the theory, especially when the person at the center of it all not only allows it, but seems to cultivate the mystery. It's important to note that Beyoncé has never confirmed involvement with any spiritual or esoteric practices. All we have are signs, behaviors, and symbolic patterns that point to a construction far beyond ordinary art. And, as we've seen in the previous chapters, nothing about her seems accidental. Perhaps the double gaze is just a reflection of extreme concentration. Perhaps it's a meditative state, trained over years. But what if it's something more? What if we are witnessing a nonverbal language, a visual code that only a few can decipher? Because the gaze, that simple gesture that says so much without a single word, might be the final key to understanding what truly happens behind the spectacle. Through the gaze, Beyoncé could be activating an ancient and unknown mechanism used to expand her presence and exercise a subtle yet powerful form of control. In a world where everything seems to have a logical explanation, there are manifestations that stubbornly escape that logic. Beyoncé, in her art, in her gaze, and in her presence, shows us that not everything lies within the realm of reason. Perhaps she is simply an extraordinary artist. Or perhaps, without realizing it, we are witnessing ancient rituals disguised in light and sound. This story is just one piece, and someday, maybe you'll see the whole puzzle. If this made you think, subscribe, like the video. It helps the channel grow. Don't forget to share. After all, more voices mean more discoveries.